A few times in the past, I've been asked by people from Skew's Discord server how I turn a render like this and turn it into something like this. A movie quality render that you may as well just say was pulled straight out of the next upcoming Sonic movie. So in today's video, I'm going to teach you how I personally go about creating some pretty amazing results using the open source program, Blender. So without further ado, let's crack on. So for those who don't know me or do know me and aren't aware, I do my work in Blender. I have now for the last 3, maybe 4 years, and I definitely don't see myself slowing down in the future. But that's not important. You're not here for a history lesson about me, you're here to learn some pretty cool shit about my Blender workflow. Well, at least I hope so, otherwise, what are you doing here? Blender is a powerful open source software that I would personally say is easy to pick up once you get the hang of things. If you are a beginner with Blender, I totally do recommend clicking off and watching Blender Guru's tutorial series where he models a donut. Yeah, it's pretty groundbreaking, I know. While he doesn't go into full detail about all that Blender has to offer, you will learn the basics that you will need to know before you go on to do other great things. Now, I will say real quick, you don't have to do the Blender Guru tutorial. There are many other places you can go on YouTube to learn stuff about Blender, but everyone recommends the Blender Guru tutorial, so I figured I'd do the same. Yeah, I'm a lazy bastard. Okay, you're back from the donut tutorial. Let's begin. If you want to do a composition, you are going to need to pick out the best available source. If you do not do this, your results may end up coming out cheap. For my compositions, I like to look through various clips of the movies and pick out a scene that I think would be fun to do. Sometimes I like to challenge myself by picking something with intricate lighting, but for this video, I'm going to keep it basic and I'll let you decide what you feel like doing. Typically, for my renders, I like to find the best quality clips. These can range from HD 1080p or 4K. If you have a 4K copy of any of the Sonic movies, you are in luck, but for me, I only own the standard definition releases of the movies with the exception of Sonic Movie 3. In the past, I used to get my screenshots from the YouTube channel Box Office Movie Scenes because generally they have the best quality clips. And for getting that screenshot, well, you're going to want some kind of screenshotting extension that you can install into Google or Firefox, whatever browser you use. There's going to be some kind of screenshotting extension. I use Screenshot YouTube, but there are probably plenty of other screenshotting tools. The extension I use integrates itself into the YouTube video player UI, which is pretty neat. You can use Windows' built-in screenshot tool if you want to, since now YouTube's new video UI allows you to screenshot the video without getting the playback bar in the way. At the end of the day, you use what works best for you. You will notice though that Box Office Movie Scenes likes to put their watermark in the top left. I'm going to be dead ass, I hate it when people do this. It's fine to do it on things you actually own, but since the Sonic movies belong to Paramount and Sega, yeah, they have no business putting their watermark there. However, Joe Blow Sci-Fi 4K have started uploading clips from the Sonic movies and they have little to no watermarks in the way, so definitely take advantage of that. So, this is the image I have gone for. It's pretty basic, it's got some pretty easy lighting to replicate in Blender. Now, depending on the camera angle, you can eyeball it until you get what looks right, but for me, I like to use F-Spy. This isn't a sponsored video, but for those wondering, F-Spy allows you to get the exact camera angle of an image. You just line up the red and green lines with objects in your image. If you're doing an image that has a wooden floor, for example, you would line up the green lines with the lines on the floor in between each plank. One thing to keep in mind when using F-Spy is green for floor, red for walls. F-Spy also has this little tool that allows you to see if you have the correct camera angle by lining up a grid with your floor or wall. You can also use the box, but I think the grid is much easier, but the box is also a good tool to see if an object in your scene will line up with the floor. Once you've got your correct camera angle, save the image, and it's time to hop into Blender. Okay, I am legally required to tell you not to hop into an actual Blender because that would be really stupid, wouldn't it? Once you've opened Blender, hop over to the Import tab. You need the F-Spy plugin in order to do this, by the way. Import your F-Spy file into Blender and align the camera with the viewport grid. I like to use a plane so I can visualize the correct axes and try to keep the camera close to the 3D cursor because it will help a lot when it comes to importing your model. When it comes to replicating your scene of choice, you have two options. You can A, build out the entire scene, have correct shadows across the scene, or B, do what I do and just add a fucking plane and call it done. I'm lazy, but trust me, it works just as well. Line the planer with the edges of your background image. If it's not scaled correctly, shadows and contact shadows from the character or object touching the ground will get cut off, so make sure you do this properly. Once you've done this step, you can apply a texture that is close to the ground of the image you're doing. If it's a floor that has some reflection, crank that roughness down. At least, this is how I do it. Since my image has a fairly matte floor, I'm just going to keep it at 0.5, or maybe a little higher. Try and match the color of the texture with the color of the floor in your image. You're not going to see it, and you'll realize why, but getting the correct color can add the correct reflections to whatever object or character you're adding into the scene. Once you've done this, hop over to Object Properties and look under Visibility. Look for the option called Shadow Catcher and tick it. This will hide the floor, but it will keep the shadows. Why, you ask? Because it's called a Shadow Catcher, okay? Don't ask questions. I'm the teacher, you're the student. Okay, you've got the Shadow Catcher set up. The next thing you want to focus on is what you want to composite. For this video, I'm going to use this character. Oh, I can hear you in the comments. Oh, it's Red Sonic! Shut up. You can use whatever you want, but since this is me, it makes more sense to use this character. If you're using a character with a rig, you want to match the pose of Sonic as best as you can. Focus on the pose, but also focus on the facial expression. Focusing on the facial expression is so important. The facial expression says so much about the tone of the scene, how the character is feeling in the moment. If your character is smiling or laughing in a scene that's supposed to be sad, tonally, it wouldn't be right. Also, it would be pretty insensitive, you little shit. Here's the pose I came up with. I tried my best to stick to the original pose, but one thing you can do is experiment with the pose. If you're using an OC, you can experiment and have your character display his or her personality, and it makes it unique compared to the original scene, especially if your OC is like mine. See? I can poke fun at myself for having a Sonic OC that looks like fucking Sonic. Doesn't mean you should do it. Rules for thee, but not for me. The next thing you need to focus on is lighting. Depending on your scene, you can use a variety of options or both of what I'm about to mention. If the scene from the movie you're using has some fairly basic lighting, you can use what is called a HDRI, a 360-degree image that contains a much wider range of light and color information. So much more than a standard image. I mean, you can use a standard image, but shut up, use a HDRI, it's so much better and it's fairly easy to find a HDRI that matches the lighting of the scene. I like to use Polyhaven because they have a great library of HDRIs that are entirely free, no matter of the quality. But if you're doing a composite, you are not going to need to worry about the quality because the background is going to be transparent, so you're not even going to see the HDRI. Oh, shut up, just pick a fucking HDRI. Sorry. I was really aggressive there, I apologize. Okay, you're done focusing on your lighting. Now is a great time to configure your render settings. The first thing I do is set my render settings. What a weird thing. I don't know why I put it like that in the script. God, I'm stupid. These are my render settings. Feel free to copy them. If you have a graphics card, you should definitely use it. Using your graphics card can decrease your render time significantly. You can either use open image denoise or optics denoising. Denoising with optics is a great way to render your scenes, and most graphics cards are made to render optics, but it can bog down your render time sometimes. Once you're done with the render settings, scroll down to the film tab and check the transparent box. This will allow you to render your image without a background and allow you to composite it into your image. Then open up the performance tab, open up the little composite tab there and check GPU because it'll speed up your compositing. Next, go to the view layer tab. Layers or render passes are a fantastic way to hone in the look of your render. I typically check all 3 diffusion passes and all 3 gloss passes. If there's emission, check emission, and definitely check AR or ambient occlusion, because this will allow you to get much better shadows. Also, scroll back up and check denoising data. You'll understand why in a second. Now hit F12 and render out your scene. You can sit back and watch your scene unfold or go make a food. Do what you want. Now you have your render. It's ugly, it's flat, it's going to make your render look cheap. Let's work on fixing it. Open up the rendering tab, drag up the timeline and switch out the timeline for the compositing tab. If you checked denoising data in the render layers, you should notice denoising normal and denoising albedo. Hit Shift A and search for a denoise node and drag it in between the nodes. This is pretty self-explanatory if you already know how nodes work, but plug the image into the image socket and plug the denoising normal and albedo into their sockets on the denoise node, and then plug the image of the denoise node into the group output. Did you get all of that? That was a mouthful. You should then notice that the noise is gone. It's not always perfect and sometimes it can remove detail from your render, but it's so much better than having a noisy image. Save the image to your desktop and then proceed to do the same process for all of your render passes. I'm not going to go into detail about my Photoshop process because there are so many other videos on YouTube about how to do this. My word of advice is to try and match it to the scene from the movie. If you don't integrate your render properly, it'll look really out of place. Take your time. Art is a process that takes a lot of time. If you rush it, you're not going to get the result you think you're going to get. And if you take your time, you should get something that looks like this. If you did everything right, pat yourself on the back. You've done it. Now post it to social media to your heart's content, or keep it to yourself and admire it. Do what you please. With that being said, I do truly hope this video helped you at least achieve something you are satisfied with, and I do hope it answers the question of how I achieved these results when it comes to my OC being composited into various scenes from the Sonic movies. I do want to thank the members of Skew's Discord server for asking this question. I've wanted to make videos on this topic before, so it was definitely a breath of fresh air from our usual genre of content. If this video helped you out, a like would be greatly appreciated, and if you're feeling generous, why not consider dropping a subscribe? I definitely do want to make more videos like this at some point, and do more 3D centered videos, since it's what I specialize in the most. Also, consider joining the community Discord server by clicking the link in the description. We have a community that is extremely accepting of whatever opinion you have, so definitely consider joining if you're looking to continue the discussion regarding the Blue Speed Mouse. With all that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic day.